Ever wonder what presidents eat after a long day of running the country? You might be surprised. The White House kitchen has served up some pretty unexpected dishes over the years. From childhood favorites to strange combinations, these presidential meals tell us a lot about different times in American history. We've done some digging and found 12 fascinating food choices that'll change how you think about presidential dining. Get ready for a tasty trip through time as we reveal what some of the most powerful people in the world liked to eat. You won't believe some of the things these presidents put on their plates. George Washington's Breakfast of Champions. Picture George Washington starting his day at Mount Vernon. What kept him going through those long nights during the Revolutionary War? Surprisingly, it was something simple: hoe cakes. These cornmeal pancakes were a staple in early American cuisine, especially in the South. Washington loved his hoe cakes covered in butter and honey, a sweet start to often difficult days of war and nation building. He enjoyed this breakfast throughout his presidency from 1789 to 1797, and probably for many years before that. This simple meal showed Washington's farming background and his connection to everyday people. It reminds us that even powerful leaders often enjoy familiar foods from home. Washington's love for hoe cakes spread, and many American families started eating them for breakfast too. Want to know what another president liked to eat? Thomas Jefferson's cheesy obsession. Ever wonder what a founding father craved after a long day of nation building? Thomas Jefferson had a cheesy obsession. This president was known for more than writing the Declaration of Independence. He was also a food lover. While serving as ambassador to France, Jefferson fell in love with macaroni au gratin, aka mac and cheese. He liked it so much that when he came back to America, he brought the dish with him. Jefferson even served mac and cheese at a White House dinner party in 1802, introducing it to America's upper class. Talk about starting a trend. Jefferson's love for mac and cheese reveals a different side of him. He was a well-traveled man, but he also enjoyed simple, comforting food. It shows that even the fanciest people can't resist a tasty, cheesy dish sometimes. Abraham Lincoln's sweet slice of comfort. Ever wondered what comfort food helped Honest Abe through the Civil War's toughest times? Lincoln's go-to treat was a simple slice of apple pie. Picture this: it's 1863, and Lincoln's carrying the weight of a divided nation. Most folks might lose their appetite, but not our 16th president. When things got rough, he turned to this classic American dessert. Imagine the smell of cinnamon and baked apples filling the White House, bringing a bit of normal to a crazy time. Lincoln's love for apple pie says a lot about who he was. It shows us a president who found comfort in basic, filling foods, just like the people he led. His choice of dessert matched his humble beginnings and showed how he connected with everyday Americans. During those hard times, a piece of pie wasn't just a snack. It was a taste of home and a reminder of the country he was working to save. Theodore Roosevelt's bully beef. Ever wonder which president had a diet as hearty as his personality? Look no further than Theodore Roosevelt, the adventurous leader who loved his food as much as his exploits. Picture Teddy, coming home after a long day of rough riding or hunting, ready for a good meal. What did he crave most? A big, juicy steak. Roosevelt liked his beef a specific way, medium rare. This choice showed he cared about taste and quality in his food. Can you just imagine that perfectly cooked steak sizzling on his plate? Teddy's love for red meat fit right in with his famous, strenuous life idea. He once said, "I have a great appetite for life, and I love to eat well." For this beef-loving president, hearty meals were the fuel for his active lifestyle. Guess, he really proved that you are what you eat. Franklin D. Roosevelt's Depression-era comfort. What simple sandwich helped FDR navigate the stormy seas of the Great Depression? Picture America in the 1930s, a nation looking to its leader for hope. In these tough times, even the president needed some comfort food. Believe it or not, FDR's favorite meal was the humble grilled cheese sandwich. While dealing with the biggest economic crisis in American history, Roosevelt found comfort in melted cheese between two slices of bread. It's a relatable choice for a nation struggling to get by. FDR's love for grilled cheese connected with the public's own struggles. White House menus back then often had simple, cheap meals that matched what everyday Americans were eating. On March 4, 1933, the day FDR was first sworn in, the White House lunch was just deviled eggs, rolls, and coffee. Nothing fancy. People liked these down-to-earth choices. In April 1934, a newspaper even praised the president's homey tastes. That gooey sandwich became a symbol of how FDR understood the people he was leading. Harry Truman's no-nonsense dinner. Ever heard of a president who liked to burn the finest cuts of beef? That's exactly what Harry Truman did. This straight-talking Midwesterner brought his no-nonsense approach right into the White House kitchen, much to the chef's dismay. Picture this: the best ribeye steak cooked until it's barely recognizable. That's how Truman wanted his beef, well done to the extreme. The White House chefs must have cringed watching those premium cuts turn to leather. But that's just how Harry liked it. And what went with that overcooked steak? A big heap of creamy mashed potatoes, of course. Truman wasn't all about fancy food, though. He was just as happy with a slice of cornbread covered in sorghum. This simple, hearty food was comfort on a plate for the president, reminding him of where he came from. Truman's plain eating habits fit perfectly with his image as an ordinary, down-to-earth president. While some people might have thought his steaks were ruined, many Americans loved that their leader ate the same kind of food they did. It made Truman seem real and relatable. Just a regular guy who happened to be president. Now, let's talk about a president who liked his beef nice and stewed. Ever wonder what comfort food reminded Ike of his military days? When Dwight D. Eisenhower moved into the White House, he brought along his love for a hearty meal that had gotten him through tough times. Good old beef stew. Picture the smell of beef and veggies cooking in the White House kitchen. This was Eisenhower's favorite comfort food, and it had a special place in his heart. During World War II, beef stew was a common part of military rations. It warmed up troops and lifted their spirits, especially on cold nights in the field. Ike liked his stew packed with fresh vegetables, making it feel more like a home-cooked meal. This simple filling dish matched Eisenhower's leadership style: practical, comforting, and effective. Back in World War II, soldiers often had dehydrated beef stew in their rations. These were called K rations, created in 1941 to give troops balanced nutrition. Ike's fondness for beef stew probably came from these familiar flavors that reminded him of his time with fellow soldiers. Let's move on to explore some tasty New England dishes. John F. Kennedy's taste of home. Ever wondered what seafood dish took JFK back to his Massachusetts roots? When John F. Kennedy moved into the White House, he brought the sophisticated air of a New England gentleman. But even as he led the nation, Kennedy's heart and taste buds stayed connected to his home state. For JFK, that special dish was a steaming bowl of New England clam chowder. This creamy, comforting soup became a regular on the White House menu during Kennedy's presidency. Imagine the smell of fresh clams, potatoes, and cream floating through the halls of power. Kennedy's love for clam chowder was more than just satisfying a craving. It showed off his refined taste and kept a bit of home close by. The dish fit perfectly with JFK's image as a polished New Englander. Kennedy often enjoyed clam chowder from famous Boston spots like Union Oyster House and Legal Seafoods, bringing real Massachusetts flavors to Washington. These restaurants were known for their thick, creamy chowders that captured the essence of New England's coastal cooking. The president's fondness for this regional favorite showed how he stayed true to his roots, even while running the country. It's a tasty reminder that sometimes comfort food can connect home and the highest office in the land. Lyndon B. Johnson's Lone Star Feast. Lyndon B. Johnson brought a taste of Texas to the White House, turning the lawn into a BBQ paradise. LBJ's big personality shone through as he hosted cookouts that filled the air with the smell of smoked meats and tangy sauce. Picture this: picnic tables all over the lawn, meat sizzling on the grill, and LBJ with his sleeves rolled up, chatting with guests over a plate of ribs. Johnson took his BBQ seriously. He even brought in a famous chef known as the Barbecue King from Texas to make sure it was the real deal. Can you imagine foreign dignitaries showing up to a casual Texas BBQ instead of a fancy state dinner? These BBQ parties became a big part of LBJ's political playbook, called the Johnson treatment. On July 4, 1964, he threw a huge cookout for 2,000 people, including members of Congress and their families. The relaxed setting let Johnson bond with allies and voters over brisket and ribs. He showed that sometimes you can win people over with good food and a friendly chat. For LBJ, barbecue wasn't just about eating well. It was a way to show off his roots, create a chill vibe for political talks, and win supporters. In August 1966, he even treated the Australian Prime Minister to a Texas-style BBQ, mixing diplomacy with his favorite food. These events became a trademark of Johnson's presidency, combining his love for barbecue with his political smarts. Richard Nixon's quirky combo. Ever heard of a president who liked to mix cottage cheese with ketchup? Yep, you read that right. Richard Nixon, the 37th President of the United States, had a peculiar taste that raised eyebrows in the White House kitchen. Nixon was known for being a bit of an enigma, a complex character who often seemed misunderstood. But his food choices, they were downright puzzling. Imagine the leader of the free world sitting down to lunch with a big scoop of cottage cheese, topped with a generous squirt of ketchup. This quirky pairing became public knowledge during Nixon's presidency in the early 1970s. It quickly became a regular part of his lunch menu. People had different ideas about why he ate it. Some thought it was a healthy choice, while others figured it might be a comfort food from his childhood. Whatever the reason, Nixon's unusual combo became quite the talking point, often leading to jokes and friendly teasing. Nixon's taste in food certainly left an impression, but he wasn't the only president with interesting culinary preferences. In fact, each president brought their own unique flavors to the White House. Jimmy Carter's Southern staple. Ever wondered what humble breakfast dish fueled a peanut farmer turned president? Well, folks, we're about to spill the beans, or rather the grits, on Jimmy Carter's favorite Southern staple. Picture this: a young Jimmy Carter growing up on a Georgia peanut farm, starting his day with a steaming bowl of creamy, buttery grits. This simple corn dish was a slice of Southern culture served up hot and fresh every morning. Even when Carter made it to the White House, he couldn't shake his love for this comfort food. Carter's fondness for grits, especially the cheesy kind, became well known during his presidency. He'd often cook them himself, showing that even the president enjoyed making his own breakfast. The White House kitchen staff made sure to keep plenty of stone-ground grits on hand for Carter's morning meal. Grits were more than just food for Carter. They were a taste of home. In the midst of political challenges, Carter's daily bowl of grits reminded people that he was still that same guy from Plains, Georgia. Whether he was meeting foreign leaders or his own cabinet, you can bet Carter kicked off his day with a big helping of his favorite Southern dish: Ronald Reagan's sweet secret. Ever wonder which candy helped Ronald Reagan quit smoking? Get ready for the sweet secret of the Gipper's favorite treat. Picture Reagan, with his charming smile, reaching for a handful of jelly beans? Yep. These little candies became huge during his presidency. But it all started when he was kicking the cigarette habit. Reagan swapped smokes for licorice jelly beans and got hooked on sugar instead of nicotine. Reagan fell for Jelly Belly beans, famous for their bold flavors and bright colors. At his 1981 inauguration, there were 5 tons of red, white, and blue jelly beans on display. The White House started serving them at official events and even gave them as gifts to foreign leaders. That same year, Jelly Belly teamed up with Reagan, creating a blueberry flavor to round out the patriotic color scheme. These candies became more than just a snack. They became a symbol of Reagan's friendly, grandpa-like image. Today, you can still grab a handful at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, almost like you're sharing a treat with the Gipper himself.